Dr. Jack, good afternoon, and I would say welcome to Sri Lanka. And can you give us a little introduction about yourself, that how you came into this kind of a lifestyle?
Yes, I was a student in Paris, and I was from a Catholic family, and religion was important for me, and I discovered Hatha Yoga, and so with Hatha Yoga and Sun meditation, I could connect more to my body, to my deep mind, and so it pushed me to go that way. When I was student in mathematics, but due to this yoga, I chose to do something closer to the body as a profession, so I started medical studies. And finally, afterwards, I did psychiatry to connect with the link between body and mind. And finally, it took me to India.
Okay, so it's a life of a sannyas?
At the beginning, I was with a scholarship, and so it was already somehow sannyas because I had to do field work. So I traveled in India alone and meeting ashram, meeting people. The scholarship was my first book, the Indian teaching tradition, which you can find on my website, a full book, and it was supported by the French government and the University Grand Commission in Delhi, which gives a subside for the university project. And so I had 4 years, so it was quite nice because I didn't have to do other work. I was focused on that book and the general discovery of Indian civilization.
Okay. So do you miss the life in France, in Paris?
For professional life, living for the office, not at all, not at all. For maybe 1 month, I was missing the patients and the nurse saying, "Doctor, come here, come here, come here." But it was 1 month, and afterwards he didn't come back. And so about even when I was for 4 years by period of 1 month and a half, 2 months in Hermitage, 4 years in all, when I was starting my sadhana, meditation or reading spiritual books or writing some text after breakfast, I was thinking of people going to office, and I was very satisfied to be there and to be in Hermitage, and so there was no regret and no regrets. And about married life, children, so it's difficult to say because I didn't have this experience, but I am the younger brother of a family of 9, and so I saw the different couple problems in my family, so it makes me think. And also for children, so I have pupils, many pupils in my seminar, so finally I consider them as my children, and it works, you know. I am fully in transmission, maybe more than the married people who transmit just to their children, and still if they can transmit to them, if the children are open to that.
Being a scholar and with this high level of education in France, what made you leave the being a doctor, like MD doctor? What made you leave that profession?
So I was working in hospital, and I was attentive to leave before starting a practice, because when you start a practice, usually you marry and you are set for this life of professional life and family life. So just before I escaped to India, and so I had this life in ashram with a spiritual master, and I had studied enough tradition to know it was important to meet one spiritual master and to live near him, and so that was a full-time job, so I did it. And I was supported by this spiritual master. He was a former medical doctor, general practitioner in France, and he came to India for looking for guru, and he met Ma Anandamayi, a lady saint from Bengal, who passed away in 1982.
82, yeah. And the lifestyle you are in right now, what do you call it in one word, or maybe?
So in one word, it would be parivrajika. The Sanskrit name Vraj means to go and Pari around. So I am going around. You know, in India there are two types of sannyasi, the Parivrajika and the Kutiriya. The Kutiriya, they stay in a kuti, and their idea is not to move and to do all their meditation at the same place. And the Parivrajika, it's the contrary. They somehow make the vow, the pledge, not to stay more than 3 days at the same place. So, and basically I do about this. So when I have retreats with groups, sometimes I can stay 7 days at the same place, but usually the retreats are shorter. And so and I go from one place to another. And even in India, so I may guide some groups also. So I travel to see, I support also some social projects, so I go to see them. But usually I don't stay. I stay 2-3 days and I go away.
So if I ask a question in a deeper level with whatever you have studied all these years, like in your experience, have you found any connection between mental well-being and the spiritual awareness?
Of course, it's much interconnected. I would compare this to the house with one floor. The upper floor is spiritual awareness, and the ground floor is mental well-being, and you have a flight of stairs or elevator in between the two, and you take it constantly. Yes. Okay. Even for creativity as a spiritual writer and spiritual experience, it's like taking elevator. You know, you go towards a spiritual experience, and afterwards again you come back to a more concrete level, practical level, where you write what you feel.
Okay, so how do you navigate the intersection between science and spirituality in your own life? Because you are from West, and here it's the East. Always there is a.
So yes, there is a big overlapping in between the two. And my daily life in the West is to be on tour. So on tour there are many tests for your patience, you know, for your attention, because things don't work as you want, because you meet always new people. And so it's a test for anger. Are you angry if it doesn't work as you want? A test of attention, because when you meet people you cannot be automatic, you have to be very attentive to their state of mind and so on.
Exactly.
And even when you travel you have to be attentive, so sometimes I lose things, but not so much because I'm traveling almost every day. But it needs attention.
Yeah. If you give any are there any particular spiritual practice or teachings that you find especially beneficial for a mental health and emotional well-being?
Yes, so of course there are many, but the first which comes to my mind is the observation of natural breathing. In tradition, they say it's specially adapted, fitted for people who have agitated life, and also intellectual people who go into many ideas. So coming back to the natural breathing is very good. But there are many others, and I would say focalized absorption is very important. And for everyone, for people who start even life of hermit, focalized absorption is very important. And for lay people, it helps them to rest first from the outer agitation, and afterwards to train their mind to come back quickly to the center, and that is very therapeutical and very spiritual at the same time. So there are different ways, and the mantra is a good way. Observing the breath is a good way. Coming back to parts of the body is useful. What I like is to combine body and mind. So there are the dynamic ways and static ways. The dynamic ways, there are more like they do in Chinese gymnastics and traditional body-mind practice like Qigong, Tai Chi Chuan, and of course there is Hatha Yoga in India. There is a walking meditation in Theravada Buddhism.
Yes.
So it's connected body and mind. And even when you are sitting, you are still connecting body and mind. You are connecting your immobile sitting body and mind. And there's a communication between the two is really effective. And also in psychotherapy, I regularly advise to people body-mind therapies because you have to understand intellectually what is your trouble, but afterwards you feel it in the body, so that's the real change comes. So both are very important, and now there is a new kind of dealing with pathologies which is much studied and with good results. They gave a name MBCT, mind-based cognitive therapy. So cognitive therapy is understanding your trouble from the logical point of view, and especially they can help a lot because they have studied that all their life, so they can say if you are depressed, usually this is wrong, this is you don't do what you should do. And so it helps to understand quickly intellectually what is going on. And in parallel, mind-based means some kind of meditation very much connected to the body, so the understanding comes inside the body, and from there the good change comes out.
Yeah, okay. We would definitely like to talk about this subject more, but there is a problem of time because you had to fly today, go back to India. So jumping to a question like what could be a good advice for a teenager, like how this spiritualism and in their teenage life, how can they get help being a teenager?
Yes, so teenager have this quality of youth as a natural joy, and they want to change, to improve, and so they should direct this inner boiling in the good direction. I like this traditional Tibetan image. When you have a pot and a fire to heat water, the pot should be in metal, because if it is in wood, wood doesn't transmit the heat, so it will never boil. And so people, they have inner joy, they have desire to change, desire to do, but usually they apply it to superficial things. They don't apply it to the inner things and fruitful things. So they should really change the pot and put the metal pot so that the inner joy would be connected in the good direction. And it's also important for adults, because some adults are being okay, I am doing some religious effort, so I should be sad and so on, and for the joy it will be at other time. That's not a good calculation, because the joy is the biggest energy, and so you have to apply it to the things of inner change, either psychological or spiritual, but you have to connect the two.
Yeah. So would you suggest any books or something for this young crowd?
Yes, to read a lot of biographies,
Okay.
because both young people and elderly people, they work with imitation. We have mirror neurons, which are very important, and so biographies using the best way possible these mirror neurons, because you become as a mirror of the great man or great woman who does it. And so it can be a biography of great scientist or great philanthropist, but it's also, of course, if you are in a tradition, biography of saints of this tradition and even of other tradition, because like this you can see that the saints of different traditions say about the same things, and it's reassuring. Some people, they say science is superior to religion, because in science, when you do a system like a phone, smartphone, it will work everywhere in the planet, while religion is connected with the culture. But it's half truth.
Yeah.
The other half of the truth is that religion have a common basis, which is becoming better people,
Yeah.
and that is working with every religion. There is this basis. Of course, there are deviations, there is violence, and so on.
Yeah.
But there is this common basis, and so. And on the other side, science can be very destructive because armament and so on, atomic bomb, it's also a science, and it's clearly destructive, you know.
Yeah.
So we should not be simplistic, and religion can help a lot, spiritual traditions a lot, because what I feel in the West, and over in young India or Sri Lanka, is that people, they are pretentious, and they want to, we say that in French, I think you say it in English also, to reinvent the wheel, you know. Means they spend years finally to find what they could have learned when they were 18, just buying to some good classes and so on.
Yeah.
And so that's a big problem, because if you apply that to science, you know, if you ask people of 10 years old to reinvent the mathematics, it will take more time, and they won't find much, you know. They have to go to PhD, and from PhD level they do original research, and they saw all the literature to see everything which has been done in that subject, and to create something really new. So for spiritual life, of course, spiritual life is much inner experience, but it's also studying about inner experience. And there is this saying of some new spiritual aspirant. He came to a master and he explained everything he had studied, such master, such teaching, such practice. And at the end, the spiritual master asked him, and what spiritual master has studied you? You know, so we need also to be checked, you know. So that's the role of tradition, not only techniques, but someone who knows, who studies you, and either in a piano, you know, or for musical instrument. You have to bring your work before someone who knows really, and immediately will tell that is not good, and you will correct. There is not much difference between spiritual learning and general learning, you know. It's the same laws. And for instance, there is something very important. They found that in average, for 50 hours, you progress when you have the basic knowledge in some field, you know. Like for instance, piano, you can give briefly the basic knowledge, and people, they can work and progress for 50 hours. But after 50 hours, there is a ceiling, invisible ceiling, and they hurt themselves on this ceiling, and they can not go further. And so, and it's there for golf, it's there for sport, it's there for music, and it's there also for meditation. So definitely you should work by yourself, but every 50 hours you should go and see the specialist and ask what next.
Yeah, of course. So I would jump into a little bit further into emotional area, like emotions.
Yes.
Dealing with emotions, that's the biggest, things that we have to deal with in life. So when we talk about emotions, dealing with anger from a spiritual perspective can involve several practices and approaches. So what type of advice you can give to children or adults? It's like that.
Yes, so anger is quite important, and you know, anger destroys the family, destroys the nation when there is war, and destroys companies when they fight. The companies cannot work, so it's important to deal with it. And so first thing is to learn to put a delay between impulsion and acting out, you know. And the more this delay is long, the more you are wise, and the more this delay is short, the more you are a psychopath. So it's important to understand that. And for children, I don't have children, but I ask, and some mothers, they told me, okay, the children get angry, but afterwards, when they are down, you ask for a kind of reparation, doing some kind seeing some useful things, asking forgiveness for the anger, and it works well. Because when they are angry, of course, as anyone angry, you cannot say much. But afterwards, they can cool down and they can understand, okay, they've done something and they should do reparation. And reparation is very deep because it involves you in the good direction, And usually you can do it. It's not difficult. But during anger itself, it's difficult. And so to go deeper also, it's very important to understand the link between greed and anger. Sometimes it's evident if it's obvious. If you didn't eat for 3 days and someone is taking your sandwich from your mouth when you start to eat it, you will be very angry, Same if you are very tired and someone shake you to wake you up, you will be very angry because desire is intense, so anger will be intense also. And about sexual life also, desire is intense, so that's why in sexual relationship, couple relationship, anger is intense also. So many people, they are superficial and they think they can master anger without mastering greed. But greed has deep roots, and so these roots, one has to look them if one wants really to master anger. And the Buddha used to say the karma of anger is 8 times more serious than the karma of greed, because if you are angry, you can kill someone. If you have just greed, you eat too much and so on, so it's not so serious, But he added, the karma of greed is 8 times more difficult to eradicate than the karma of anger. Because with the karma of anger, you have a strong motivation. You say, okay, if I continue with anger, I will destroy my family, destroy my country, and so on. But if you continue with greed, you will say, okay, it's not so serious, and we are all are allowed to some good time. And Tenzin Palmo, who was a British lady who spent 11 years and a half in a cave, and so I somehow inspired by her for the past 13 years, since the death of my preceding guru, Swami Vijayananda. So she gave a very simple image. Once in summer, before her cave, it was 4,300 meters high in the Himalaya, in Lahul Valley, on the way to Ladakh. So Tenzin Palmo, she wanted to put stones, flat stones, to improve the place in front of her cave. And so she somehow started the work, but there were small flowers, and she said, okay, small flowers, I will just remove them, but they were very strongly attached below. So she tried, and finally she took an axe and one spade, and she dug the area, and she found there were very big roots like this, which has just little flower on the surface. And so it was a big work to remove these
it's very interesting.
Big roots, you know. And so she said the avidity, greed is like this. You say, okay, it's not a big problem, I eat this, I eat that, or I do this, I do that. But below there are very big roots. But when you look at these big roots and you somehow destroy them, there you destroy the root of anger also at the same time.
Okay.
But as long as you are in greed, anger will be there. It's two faces of the same coin. And you should explain that to children. Look, you wanted very much this cake, and your brother told you take it from you, so you were very angry, and it's because you wanted this cake that the anger came. And they can understand. And of course, explaining to children about altruism is important. And now there is an interesting center, and you can find on internet Center for Healthy Mind, made by Richard Davidson in Wisconsin, with inspiration of Dalai Lama. And they studied scientifically altruism and the good qualities, and even they study on very young children. And they have developed programs to instill the sense of altruism with very young children.
Okay. Okay.
For instance, there is an experience which is fundamental about altruism. They give 2 comics to children which are parallel in their structure, but one is the opposite of the others. There is a young baby, the age of these small children they are testing, maybe 2 years old, 3 years old. They try to go up a stair, which is difficult for children because they have really to be good sportsmen, to take one step after others. And above there is a boy which is maybe 4 or 5 years elder, and in the first comics it gives kicks to the child to make it fall down the stair, and the second comic he helps them to go to the floor, and next floor. And so they gave to the children who don't know even to speak correctly, they gave some toffees, and they say you give toffee to the boy you prefer. And they all they tested on 600 children, and they all gave the toffees to the kind boy, and nobody gave toffees to the bad boy. So it means that kindness is ingrained in us before courses in religion, in ethics, in morality. The young people, they know very well who is kind, who is not kind. That is very important, because some philosophers, they are too abstract and say kindness is a social construct. But when you see this experiment, no, definitely at 2 or 3, they cannot even speak, but still they feel what is kind and what is not kind.
Okay, having said that, I think we have to jump to the conclusion. So, what do you think of Sri Lanka after visiting here?
And so I read about Sri Lanka crisis and the history and recent history with this economical crisis and about the causes of it. So I am aware of it. And as for me, I came to Sri Lanka, so I know that people of Sri Lanka, they like tourists to come because it rebalances also their way. But tourism in Sri Lanka, I did several times. I came with French group also, and we did one group together. It was nice. But this time I came mostly for staying in an aranya, in a forest hermitage. And so it was a very good experience for me. And I am 67, so I need also to stay in some places, to write books. I wrote 18 books. And so I find that taking time for books, for writing and reading more, and writing from our readings also and from our experience also, is something important. And so I decided to come back maybe for 2-3 months next year in this good forest hermitage, and to translate some books from the English. It may be some books about the main project will be Vimuttimagga. It's a text which was written in Pali, lost in Pali, translated into Chinese, and retranslated in 1961 in Sinhalese and in English by Sinhalese Chinese specialist. And so it's quite interesting. It was in between the question of King Milinda by Nagasena, and Visuddhimagga of Buddhaghosa. In between these two periods, there was this book. So I sought to translate it into French, because even Visuddhimagga is no more available in French, although it has been translated 20 years ago. And so it's important that these books could be available, and directly maybe I will put as a Dhammadana on internet.
Okay.
So I have asked.
So if we want to read any of your books, what will be the website?
The website is jacquesvigne.com.
Okay.
jacquesvigne.com with a foreign French writing of Jacques. Maybe you will write it.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have already 2 books in English, many articles, and just recently I will do more translations.
Okay.
I will do more translations, and so now automated translation is available, and in 2 minutes you can translate a 400 pages book, and afterwards you just have to reread. Of course, it's work to reread because you have many small things to correct and sometimes full sentence to correct, but still it saves 3/4 of the time.
Okay.
So it becomes easier to translate large chunks of books or full books with the system, and to have a quick reading afterwards. So it's okay.
So you just said you have plans to come back to Sri Lanka maybe next year.
Yes.
So if you are given a chance, or if you like to meet people to discussions or for any preaching or something like that, will you be interested to
Yes.
meet people?
I don't do preaching, but I can do lecture on a subject. My main subject, is in between modern psychology and tradition and traditional meditation, modern meditation. So I am always happy to speak of it, and so we could do it. And sometimes I can go to university also, Department of Psychology, if they invite me, because I am a psychiatrist and I've studied in that field, so I am interested. And I hope that next year I will have enough material translated into English so that people could benefit more of my works, because I wrote 18 books. So, now it's time to translate into English in a serious way.
Do you like to say something in Sinhalese? Because I know you have little knowledge about Sinhalese as well.
Yes, so in the spiritual way, this passion is very important. And so this feeling of this passion is not depression, it's something very strong and which gives you strength. And I would say Vedakne.
Vedakne? Okay. Which part you mean? Vedakna means
useless,
no, useless.
So many things in our lives that we feel important, finally they are useless.
They're useless.
And the main useless things is our ego.
Exactly. Okay.
Because we can work in life much better if we are inspired from moment to moment by which is right to do, rather than which satisfies my ego. Even in human relationship, in couple, it's very important to be on the Dhamma, on the right thing to do, rather than which satisfies my ego. And we have a superficial opinion about happiness. People feel happy when their ego is satisfied, when they should be happy when they have done and thought and spoken what was right. So it's a big difference. So many things are Vedakne.
So thank you so much, Dr. Jack, for giving us this time, and I hope that we'll meet again soon and have a better and longer discussions.
I hope to, and to come back in this beautiful island and with this deep tradition of meditation. And I felt it really in this Aranya near Kandy. I felt there was a 23rd century of meditative tradition that is really a treasure. It's not only national treasure, because you have Theravada Buddhism in other countries, but still Sri Lanka is important.
You have been coming to Sri Lanka for a couple of years, right? This is
no, more than a couple of years, since I came first time in Sri Lanka maybe 30 years ago.
30 years ago that was. And then afterwards, recently, almost every year you're visiting Sri Lanka.
One can say, yes.
Okay, so thank you so much, and I wish you a safe flight.
Ayubovan.
Ayubovan.